and welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I'm your host, the Water Dog, and today I'm going to be starting a series on Master cards, and my emphasis on this first video is going to be Master cards that don't cost you any pull to play. That's right, they don't cost you any pull to play, and they just have some unique abilities, and so we're going to look at some of those cards today. So, let's get started. Our first card is going to be Specialization. It's a unique master, came out of Black Hand in 2003. There are currently 41 decks in the TWD database. It's a unique master. It says, put this card in play during your unlock phase. You may lock this card and discard 2 copies of the same card from your hand to gain 1 pull, draw afterwards. All right, here we go. Now, I like this card when I'm using a lot of cards that I'm going to have multiple copies of, particularly if I'm playing like a bleed deck. Because when I play a bleed deck, you're going to have a lot of stealth cards, right? So a lot of times you're going to get hand-tied because typically speaking, when you play a good bleed deck, sometimes your predators start to get smart. They don't want to, block, because if they attempt to block, they realize that you're going to go to stealth, and usually those stealths are going to come with extra bonuses, bleeds. So they figured they could take less damage by not blocking, and plus then get you hand stuck to a certain degree. So one of the ways to avoid getting hand stuck for me is Specialization. That's what I love about it. So, you can go ahead, during your unlock phase, you can then lock the card, you can then discard 2 copies, So if you want to get rid of those cards, you can get rid of them. Plus the bonus is you get to gain a pull. You get to gain a pull. That's just a great extra bonus to that, is you're gaining pull from it. This also works great with like a combat deck, when you're playing combat cards, because a lot of times you get hand stifled with your combat cards, right? So those things work. The other thing I want to point out about this card is that it's not a location. It's not a location. So because it's not a location, that means that it's not going to get burned, because a lot of times there's a lot of ways to burn locations. There are locations that can get voted out, okay? Nope, can't get rid of Specialization. The only way to really get Specialization off the table is if it's contested. And then you're going to have to then pay pull to try to, keep up with yours. But that's really the only way. So that's one of the reasons why I like it, because when it hits the table, it's usually there for the game and you don't have to worry about it. So it's a great way to hand cycle. You gain a pull and it doesn't cost you anything to play. Specialization. That's a good card. Our next card is FailSafe. It's a master unique trifle. Came out in Twilight Rebellion in 2008. There are currently only 39 decks in the TWD database. It says, put this card in play. If you have fewer than 3 pull, you may use a Master Phase action to burn this card and gain 4 pull. All right, now, this card can go into any deck. So I don't care what you're playing, okay? Typically, if I see this card, you usually are going to see it in like maybe an imbued deck, but it doesn't matter. You can play Ministry. You can play Gangrel. It doesn't matter. You can put this card in any deck, and what it is it's just like it says, it's a failsafe, okay? I could have used it last night, as a matter of fact. I lived on 2 pull remaining last night. It was going out of style, just barely surviving. But it would have been great if I had my failsafe in play. So I do put this card in several decks. The other great thing about it is that it's a trifle. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't really hurt to put in any deck. So especially if you're building a deck, because there's a lot of players that don't like 90 card decks. They really don't. They like to play with like a 70 to 77 card deck because they feel like they're not going to be able to play all those cards anyway. Well, if you're building a 77 card deck, why not put a failsafe in there? If you're gonna do that, just put a failsafe, because it's a unique trifle. You can then go and play another master card. To me, you're not losing a slot by putting it into the deck. And once again, very similar to Specialization, not a location. So the only way to really get it off the field is you're going to have to contest it. So it's just a good way to gain pull. It's a trifle, doesn't cost you anything. Good card. Our last card is 2 Wrongs. It's a master out of turn trifle. It's a promo card. Came out in 2008. There are currently 21 decks in the TWD database. States, play when a minion controlled by a Methuselah other than your predator is bleeding you after blocks are declined. That minion is now bleeding his or her prey. The next card that would change the target of this bleed is canceled as it is played. Now, this is a water dog card. And I got to tell you, I got to use this card to some pretty good effect when I was playing in Austin earlier this year. And I kind of surprised some of the players. I think that some of them hadn't even really seen this card before. But it's just a wonderful card. I played it in my daughter's Anarch deck, because I make my daughter's Anarch. And, because one of the things about daughters is they don't have intercept. It's just because they're not designed for combat. They're not designed for really blocking. They're designed to be proactive. If you're going to use daughters, you're really that's the type of clan that you're just trying to be proactive during your turn. Okay, so you have to figure out ways to prevent taking heavy losses and stuff. So to have a 2 wrongs, which is a bounce bleed, is great because daughters don't really have good bounce bleed alternatives. So for me, I like to stick a couple of 2 wrongs in there, okay? Once again, it's a trifle, so it's an out-of-turn trifle, so you can still use a master phase action, okay? So when you have a clan like daughters and you're playing that, I like to have bleed reduction cards, but having that 2 wrongs just to transfer the bleed to make my predator think about certain things, it's a wonderful thing. So I like that 2 wrongs card. It is a great water dog card. That's it. That's it for today. That's Master Cards. You watched the whole video? Congratulations. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Reading Between the Lines. I'm your host, the Water Dog, and if you like what you've been watching, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Y'all take care.